Hello, hello, friends. Good evening. It is Nomad Brad coming to you from my box truck, back in person, back home from my trip to Arizona. I'm sorry, my trip to Texas. Please tell me if you can hear me. How's my audio quality? I'm always unsure about what I sound like to you folks. So if you could just drop me a message in the chat, let me know how it sounds, if it sounds like it's an appropriate volume level, and if I'm not maxing out the volume. So let me know. Let me know how it sounds in the chat. I'm gonna read through some comments here. Adventures with Super Dave. Appreciate you, Super Dave. Loyal channel subscriber, channel member. He says, I would like to congratulate you on your channel growth. It was 17.7 2 weeks ago. Now it's 18.2. That's 500 new people. Yes, Dave. Okay, Ducky. Hey, Ducky. Ducky Momo, what's going on? New to the channel. I don't recognize your avatar. Happy to have you with us, Ducky. We got Diana in the chat. It was good until you lowered your mic. Let me put it back up a little bit here. We'll try that out. Let me know, Diana, if that sounds better. Okay, Diver. Finally made it. Okay, Diver, happy to see you in the live stream. I know you've missed it a couple times. So happy to have you here tonight. John C says a little low, so I push my mic back up. I'll bump the volume up a little bit here. I just want to make sure I'm not like peaking and it's not crazy loud, because that can be frustrating too. So let's try that. Bumped it up a little bit. Let me know. I'll bump it up a little more if we need it. Sheila, hello Sheila. She says you sound good and clear. Appreciate it. Diana says yes, sounding great. I appreciate Diana. She is an OG. Diana was around back in the Van Life RX days, and she's been a loyal Van Life community member. I appreciate you having you here, Diana. Get tape and label them, and a tester. I don't know what that means. John C. sounds better. Okay, awesome. Glad to hear the volume's good. We're going to get rocking and rolling. The channel has been growing. I think the YouTube gods have finally blessed me by promoting my videos to more people. Previously, the videos that I put out seem to average between 1 and 2,000 views, but the last two videos I did took off pretty well. The 2 videos ago, my San Diego parking lot life video has over 11,000 views, and then my latest video, that little box truck tour video, is up to 9,000. So it looks like things are going in the right direction, which is exactly what old Nomad Brad needs to keep this box truck rolling. Appreciate being able to share my journey with more folks, and so that's always nice to be able to reach more people. So for those of you that don't know, for the last week I was in Texas. I actually flew back to Austin, Texas to help my mom, who lived in Austin for about 2 years, helped her move back to Arizona. So she was in Lake Havasu previously, flew out to Austin to try it out, decided she didn't like the weather. I don't blame her. Austin, Texas weather is pretty brutal, so she's happy to be back in Arizona. She doesn't mind the heat. The benefit of Arizona is there's no humidity. So even though it gets hot in the summer, sometimes 120 degrees, it's a low humidity, so it's a little more tolerable versus in Austin, Texas. Even when I was there, it might be 100 degrees, but you get super high humidity, so you're just sweating bullets and sticky. And Texas, in my opinion, is not a good place to live in a van. So happy to be out of there and back on the road again. So I made it back today, back to Yuma. I'm at my dad's house in Yuma, Arizona, reunited with my box truck. And I got to tell you guys, after being at my mom's place in Texas for a few days and then traveling on the road in hotel rooms, I missed my box truck so much. And, not just the comfort of having all my stuff with me, which is a big benefit, but also just the convenience of having everything. So, there were many times throughout the trip where I wished I had this item or that item. And, if I was in my box truck, I would have it all with me at all times. So it really is, people don't realize how awesome it is that when your home is on wheels and everywhere you go, you have your home with you. Just having access to all your stuff, all your favorite foods, your clothes, every little kitchen tool and knife and anything you could need is always with you. And that's just such a fantastic feeling to know that you always have your stuff. So I definitely was missing it. Happy to be back in the box truck and loving box truck life. So what I was planning to talk about tonight was, and if you guys saw the little image that I put up for the live chat tonight, but what I was going to talk about is that van life or box truck life or nomad life, whatever type of vehicle you're living in, when you're doing the nomadic lifestyle, that it's actually a very rich life. And I think a lot of people who haven't got into the lifestyle yet, they think about maybe having to give up a lot of stuff, giving up personal possessions, giving things up by not having a central location. But I want to share with you guys kind of the other side of the coin and how much you gain by living a mobile lifestyle and how much what different benefits there are. So I think it's really important. And then also what I'm going to share with you guys is some things that I've learned, especially for you guys that haven't hit the road yet, some things that I've learned in my time on the road over 6 years now that help make the transition from traditional sticks and bricks style living into a really comfortable experience in a vehicle. Because if you take your previous lifestyle and kind of the hustle and bustle and all the routines and stuff, and you try to do all that while you're living nomadically, it can feel stressful and overwhelming at times. So I think it's important when you're starting out in a new journey, in a nomadic journey, it's important to realize that you're beginning a whole new chapter. And so you want to really evaluate your life and the way you're living and make some adjustments and kind of think about what you want your life to look like moving forward and really treat it as a brand new beginning, because it really is. And so if you treat it like a brand new beginning and take some appropriate considerations, then you'll definitely be set up for success, and it will help minimize your stress that you might feel by just changing up your lifestyle. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And if you guys have any questions as I'm talking, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll cover all the questions. And any questions you guys have, man, my hair is wild tonight. It is absolutely a mess. I need a haircut. Nomad Brad needs a haircut, and I'm planning to get one. I'm actually going to be going for my next YouTube video that I'll release on Sunday. I haven't filmed it yet, but I'm going to be going down into Mexico. I'm going to stealth camp on the Mexican border and go down into Mexico, get a haircut, take care of this shag, get some tacos, and just have a good time over the border in Mexico. So you guys will be able to check that out on Sunday. So Nomad Brad needs a haircut. But in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. And anything at all. If it's not related to the topics today, I'll try to address questions at the end that are just general van life related questions. I want to make sure I always help support you guys, and anything you might have that pops up that you're curious about, I always want to try to make sure that I can answer those for you and just help you guys have the confidence to live this lifestyle, because I think it's a great one, and I think a lot more people would definitely benefit from a lifestyle like this. So we will cover all your questions, answer everything we can, and get you guys all set up. So let's go ahead and get started with today's lesson. Let's see who's joined us. Robert is here. Hello, Robert. Happy to have you on the live tonight. Renee has joined us. Hello, Renee. And King Gamer is here. He says, hey, it's Nomad Brad himself. Glad to see you back on the live streams. I hope everything worked out. It sure did. I did have to cancel last week's live stream because I was helping my mom move. And I just wasn't in a mental space to be talking about van life. I was like spending all day packing boxes and stuff. So I know you guys understand that, but I want to try to keep the lives going once a week so that you guys can know regularly. You can come in, get a little pep talk, get a little excitement towards the lifestyle, and get some questions answered. So we're going to keep it rolling with lives every week. Hello, David. Thanks for joining. I see your profile picture looks like a VW bus. Looks like you got a VW bus there. Yes, hit that like button. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. So let's go ahead and hop over. And let me get my screen going. Hey, what's up, Donald? Happy to see you on the live. Glad you caught it this week. And happy to have you guys here. Happy to have all you guys. And I appreciate the feedback, the comments. It just kind of helps make things more fun and interactive. And I always like to know, how you guys are feeling about stuff and what your thoughts are. And like to know if I'm doing a good job. So I appreciate it. Happy to have you guys active participants. Okay. And let's see. I got the chat box. I just Oh, I did this last time. I accidentally tried to sign into the chat and docs menu. Okay, let me see if I can do this again now. Chat. Let me see if I can bring it back up. There we go. Okay, chat is back. All is saved. We are moving forward now with the performance. Okay, so one thing I wanted to talk about, Robert says, I really appreciate you. I appreciate you guys. Diana says family first. It's good to spend quality time with your mom. I agree. You know, as my parents get older, my mom is like 68, I think, and my dad is 70, mid 70s. So, you know, when you're young, they're always there for you, but as you get older and they get older, you realize their time in this reality is kind of winding down, and so it's good to spend as much as you can with them and spend some time with them, hang out with them, and make some memories while the memories are still good. So I was happy to be able to spend some time with my mom this week. It was good. Okay, Donald with a quick question. How much do you have into your build? Donald, my van cost me $12,000. I purchased it about 2 years ago. And then as far as build materials, I wanted to keep really good records, but I didn't. I did not keep records, but I kind of tried to do some estimating, and I estimate I spent about the same amount of money on the build out. So I'm estimating about 12,000 for the truck, 12,000 for the build would put me at about $24,000. And I know that sounds like a lot, 12,000 on the build, but you know, materials are expensive, and when you think about just building this out, I mean, when I was doing it in Texas, materials were pretty expensive. Sheets of plywood were almost $100 a piece. I think I was paying about $70 a piece for my sheets of plywood. And, you know, I easily have 10 sheets of plywood in here. So just the plywood is $1,000. So money goes by pretty quick when you're doing a build out. Just to give you an idea, about 12,000 on the build. That's without labor. You know, that's just me donating all my time buying the materials. So you can see why professional van builders, you know, they charge 40,000 just for the, you know, I mean, it depends, right? If you get into high-end sprinters, the prices go bananas. But if we're just talking about like realistic build outs, if you found a builder that was just going to charge you hourly and convert a box truck or a ProMaster for you, you know, you could expect to spend or $40,000 on the build, you know, and half of that is going to be labor because the person that's doing the work, they're skilled and they got to make money. They have bills to pay. They have a family to feed. And so you're basically, you know, paying for that person's income for, you know, 3 to 6 months. Super Dave says, how much did you spend on the electrical system? I'm at over $1,000 and I have to buy the panels and batteries. Yeah, Dave, that's about right. You know, I went cheap on my electrical system just because I was on a budget, you know, and I spent, like I said, 24,000 on all this, and I'm not made of money, Super Dave, so I went on a budget, but I probably spent 2,000 on all my electrical. When I do consultations for people, you know, when they're doing like I've done a lot of school buses recently, and I did an estimate for Nicole for her box truck build, and you know, you're looking at $5,000 to $6,000 potentially just in batteries and electrical and stuff. So the electrical is the most expensive part of the build. Robert says, I'm not sure which direction to go. I'm looking at truck campers, box trucks, lightweight tow behind camper, just not sure which model to go with. So Robert, it's all going to depend on, you know, what your living situation is. You got to consider if you're going to be living in the vehicle full time, a truck camper is going to be pretty limited on floor space. Like if you've ever stepped inside a truck camper, you know, because it goes inside the bed and then you have all the cabinets and countertop, you really only have like a slim walkway and then some kind of a convertible bed bench. So truck camper is going to be the smallest amount of space. It's good for adventuring if you want to do a lot of off-road stuff, but I don't really know about living full-time in a truck camper. I feel like that would be pretty restrictive. I mean, space in a truck camper is even less than like a full-size cargo van. You know, a full-size cargo van could have 10 feet of floor space. In a truck camper, you're going to be like 6.5, 7.5 feet. So I would encourage you to not do a truck camper if you're going full time. I just feel like it's not much space. I would at least do a cargo van. Tow behind campers give you a lot. That's the most space you can get, but then the downside is you have a second vehicle you got to drag around. So if you're not going to do a lot of stealth camping, like if you're just going to go stay on BLM land or stay at parks and stuff, truck campers are nice because then not truck campers, but tow behind campers are nice because then you can just leave the camper at your camp and you can drive your truck into town. So that's a big benefit. But again, that's for like staying long term in places. If you're going to be driving around often, frequently going between spots, you're not going to want to have to unhook and then hook up a trailer all the time. So it all depends on what you want to do, Robert. That's really what you got to think about. And yeah, Robert says, I want to keep my stuff. So toy hauler. Yeah, if you want to keep your stuff, then that might be the way to go. Another thing you might do, Robert, is you might just get a trailer or a toy hauler to begin because those are pretty, you can get a used one at a fair price. And if you buy a used camper or a used trailer, those, and it's in good condition, those will hold their value pretty well. So you could get a toy hauler and just try it out for a year or two and then figure out what you really want. And if you decide like, this is too much, I want to downsize, then you can sell that camper without losing too much money on it. And that's what I recommend for most people. When you're getting into the lifestyle, like I went through 3 different vehicles before I figured out a box truck is what I wanted. But that I don't recommend that for most people. That's a lot of stress and like money and changing things around. So it's best if you can to try to figure out what you want before you actually buy something. So you might try to rent something. You can rent conversion vans. You can rent RVs, you can rent bumper pull trailers. So you might try to just rent something and live in that for a little bit and then see what you think about it. Good evening, Outdoors Dreadhead. Happy to see you here. Happy to have you on the chat. Outdoors Dreadhead, I've been trying to sell a lot of my stuff. It's harder than I thought. Yeah, it's hard to downsize. I feel you guys. And that's why I recommend, I'm kind of an odd duck. I was ready for it. I was like, let's just sell everything. But I recommend if you can, try it out first. Rent something. If you can really rent it for a while, like maybe a couple weeks or even a month, if you could live in a truck camper or an RV or a rental van for like a month, that'll give you a pretty good idea of the lifestyle and what you need and kind of what your experience is. Because one thing I'm going to talk about today and one thing to keep in mind is it's a totally different lifestyle when you're living nomadically on the move, and the things you end up doing with your spare time and the things that you're interested in end up changing a little bit. And so you'll start to value experiences more than possessions. And so a lot of the possessions that you currently have, you'll start to realize that you don't really use them that often, and it becomes more of a burden to have to drag them around with you. And so you'll naturally just end up being like, well, these possessions are a burden. I want to eliminate them, so I'm more free to travel and do stuff. So that's kind of what's cool about van life and living nomadically is it kind of just sends you off in the direction of minimalism and less things and more experiences. And it's a nice gradual, it's a gentle way, to do it where you're not just sitting in your house looking at all the stuff you have that you enjoy and then thinking about the stress of trying to get rid of it. So you might consider renting a storage unit. That's another thing you can do is just rent a storage unit, put all your stuff in storage, and then see how you do without it. And you'll realize pretty quickly that a lot of the stuff that you have, you really don't need it, and it'll be easier to let it go. But, with that being said, though, it is important to have things you enjoy. So if there are certain things you really appreciate in life, you want to bring those in. You don't want van life to be a situation where you feel like you're really giving up a lot of stuff and you're not getting things in return. So definitely try all that out. Okay, so we're going to jump into the presentation today. This is about mindset and habits to find joy with less, and this kind of fits in nicely with what we were just talking about. So one of the first things I wanted to mention is when people get into nomadic living, when you're coming from like a sticks and bricks lifestyle, you're going to have a lot more free time on your hands just because you're out, you're traveling, you're at a park or something. And a lot of the other things that normally occupy your time, like sitting in traffic, going to the grocery store, going to the gym, going shopping, going out to a restaurant. Like a lot of the things that normally fill up your day, doing laundry, doing dishes, you won't really be doing those things. And so you'll be still covering all the basics like cleaning your van, cooking food, that type of stuff, but you're going to end up with a lot more free time on your hands. And so um, it's important to kind of have a plan about how you're going to approach that free time. And like I said earlier, this really is, it's a new beginning for you. And so it's the beginning of a brand new life. And so now that you have that free time, like this is your chance to really evaluate your life and think about what you want this next chapter to look like. And if you have things that you've wanted to do in your previous life that you didn't have time for, this is a great time to take advantage of that. So one example might be if you've wanted to, you know, take better care of your health. Maybe you've wanted to exercise more, or you've wanted to eat, you know, less junk food, or you've wanted to cook more meals. Then you're going to have more time, and so you could use the time you have to do those types of things. And then if you do use your free time to improve your health, you know, that's also going to benefit you because then you're going to be feeling better and you're going to have more energy and you might find yourself being a little more happy. And so that's kind of a nice way to use up that free time. And another thing that you might consider is, you know, if you did have a hobby that you wanted to do, then this is a great time to take up that hobby. You know, if you've always wanted to, um, you know, do some kind of craft or jewelry making or painting, or maybe you're like to tinker with stuff. Maybe you want to, you know, build some things. This is a great chance because you don't have all the other stressors that are fighting for your time. This is a great chance to do those things. So it's definitely a good chance to get into new hobbies. And another cool thing is if you have a hobby that can make you money, then that can be kind of a twofold benefit. So if you do want to get into crafting or creating something, or maybe you're a tech person and you want to get into building computer programs or building websites or, you know, doing something like that, then you could also have a hobby that potentially pays you as well. So then when you're on the road, you have some additional income, but you're also doing something you enjoy rather than, you know, working a job or, you know, doing something that you don't enjoy. So I think those are all really good things to consider. And what I find a lot of people do is when they come from a traditional life that's very busy and you're used to like running around and always doing stuff and always being on the move and staying busy, when you get into this lifestyle, when you're less busy, it can feel a little bit stressful because now it's like all of a sudden you have all this free time and you feel like you should be doing and you're not doing. And so you get a little bit like a little stir crazy and you feel like you're kind of just sitting around. And so I experienced that a little bit. And so I think that's why it's important to just have the mindset and the understanding coming into it that you're not trying to replicate your previous life, right? Most people that are here, I believe, and most people that are interested in this lifestyle, it's because they want a slower pace or they want more nature or they don't want to have to work as much. So you have to realize when all that happens and you get a slower pace and you don't work as much, you also want to try to have your lifestyle and your body match that. So when you're living a little bit slower pace of life, then you want to try to, you know, bring your mental state down to kind of that same level where you're a little more relaxed and calm. And so that's something I wanted to share with you guys. I know it's helped me out a lot. Before I got into the van, I was doing heating and air conditioning, and I was working, you know, 8 to 10 hour days, depending on the season. If it's super hot or super cold, I was working a lot of hours, sometimes 6 days a week. And so coming from that always on the go, customers waiting on you, got to fix their heat, and then going to all of a sudden like, well, now I have nowhere to be and there's nobody telling me to go do stuff. It's quite a bit of a shock. So you definitely want to just be kind to yourself and give yourself some time to kind of readjust and acclimate to the new lifestyle. It's a lot different. I assume it's similar to what retirement people experience. I know a lot of folks when they retire. Hold on, I'm going to close my window here. The bugs are coming in. Can't have the bugs in the Casa de Nomad Brad. Okay, so I know a lot of retired people, when they go into retirement, they experience a similar thing where they go from being busy and like having a purpose to all of a sudden they're not busy and they feel like they don't have a purpose. So it's important to just make sure that you do find a purpose to fill whatever your old role was. So whether it be a hobby or some kind of a side hustle or something like that, just make sure that you're not sitting around idly and then, be feeling anxious that you're not busy. So I'm going to hop over to the chat and just catch up here and see what's going on, see what the people are saying. I like to see you guys chatting. I'm glad to see there's side conversations going on. Information is being exchanged. Ideas are being shared. I love it. Okay, Outdoors Dreadhead says, I know what I'm keeping, but people around are not buying much. I'll be glad to see it go. I'll tell you what, guys, when I got down to the end of it, I had multiple garage sales. And by the end, I just had a bunch of stuff that didn't sell. And I just took it. I took a lot of it to the Goodwill. And some of it I just threw in the dumpster, and just because I just wanted it gone. And those material possessions, they're called possessions, but the reality is they can end up possessing you, where you feel this attachment to stuff and it's like you don't use it, you don't really need it, but you don't want to get rid of it because you kind of hold this sentimental value. And so, like for me, at the end, I got rid of sports cards I've had since grade school. I got rid of bobbleheads, little like figurines and toys and just all these random things that I had been carrying along with me since childhood. They sat in boxes for 20 years. I never touched them. And I was just like, you know what? This stuff's got to go. It's literally holding me back. And so I just let it all go. And that was a really good feeling to kind of just step in, take control, and just break free of the stuff and the possession from the stuff. So it's pretty liberating once you decide, like, that's it. I'm taking over. I'm getting rid of the stuff. So don't feel shy about just letting stuff go. Throw it on, take it to Goodwill, throw it in the dumpster. Get it out of there. And keep in mind too, like you have this exciting new adventure ahead of you. It's exciting. Like what's coming in your future is way more exciting than what was in the rear view. So look forward to letting things go, because with each item you eliminate, that's just one step closer to a brand new experience. Robert says, I always said if my marriage didn't work out, I'd go and live in a van. And that's what that's what looks like it's happening. Destiny, I suppose. Yes, Robert. I hear you. There's a lot of people who I meet a lot of older single women, like 50s, who ended up parting ways with their spouse, and they're like, I just want to go travel and, see the country and be in nature, and they just want to sit at home and watch sports. So, a lot of people have made the decide to part ways. And, unfortunately, part of life is as you age, either you grow together or you grow apart. And I think it's more common for folks to grow apart than it is grow together. So that's what we see, with the divorce rates and everybody kind of living their own life. But as long as you're happier by yourself than you were happier in your relationship, then I think it's a net positive. And I think it's the right decision. Robert says, I took my second yoga class this week, and it's something I think I'm going to stick with. I kind of enjoyed it. Yes, Robert, I'm happy to have you in yoga. I absolutely loved it. I had a gym membership that had a yoga studio in it, and so you could do free yoga classes. And I used to go twice a week, and I really enjoyed it. It's a super calming experience. You go in, they turn the lights down, they turn up the crazy flute music, and there's usually some super laid back lady who's just, walking you through the movements, and it's a super peaceful, relaxing time. And I think it's good for the body. It really limbers you up. If you have any issues with like pain or being stiff, or you don't exercise a lot, yoga is a really good low impact exercise to kind of stretch out the body. And it's good for van life, because in van life you're in a lot of tight positions, and depending what vehicle you get, it might be a little small. So it's good to remain flexible, and yoga is a great choice to remain flexible. What else we got going on? Marview says 100% more life. Robert says new beginnings, time for a new lifestyle. Absolutely, that's what it's all about, is a new lifestyle. And I saw a quote the other day from a friend that he posted online, and he said don't be afraid to start over, because life is a whole series of beginnings and endings. And when you look at it that way, he's right. I mean, when we start out as children, we go to school, public school, grade school, high school. That's a beginning. When you start school, that's a beginning. When you finish school, that's an ending. If you go to college, that's a beginning and an ending. Every time you enter a relationship or a new job, there's a definite beginning and an ending. So life is full of those. And I think the series of beginnings and endings is kind of how you grow and learn more as a person. And so hopefully each time you start a new beginning, you're rolling over some experiences you took away from the previous ending. So as long as the trajectory is positive and you feel like you're heading in the right direction, then I think it's important to keep an open mind about starting over. And I've started over in my life many, many times, and I'm grateful for it. When I look back at all the things I've walked away from, I can see how each opportunity, each thing that I shut the door on, when I opened the next door, it was a better choice. Robert, those are really good points. Thanks, Robert. Trying to spread the love and the knowledge. Marview says, under the bridge down by the river. I got to tell you what, man, living in your van by the river is about as good as it gets. I spent a couple weeks in San Diego living by the ocean, and I absolutely love it. I'm looking forward to going back to San Diego. It is absolutely my favorite place to van life. If you guys saw the video I put out 2 weeks ago, I was sleeping in a parking lot on the beach. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. I would get up and go for morning walks with no shoes on the sand. I would come back, make a coffee, make a lunch, hang out, go for another walk on the beach, talk to people. It was such a good experience. And that's something else to consider. If you guys are more social and you're concerned that, van life might be a lonely experience, then I would say consider doing van life in a beach town. Because when you're in a beach town, there's a lot of new people. So it's not like everyone lives there and they're like, who are you? There's a lot of tourists, a lot of people on vacation. And I've found all the tourists I met in San Diego are generally pretty friendly. They're on vacation. The sun's shining. Many of them came from absolute dreadful places. I met a guy from Michigan when I was there, and he was talking about how dreadful the weather was in Michigan, but he was so happy to be in the sun of San Diego. So if you guys are worried about perhaps being lonely, then I would encourage you to do some city stealth camping. Try the beach. Try a pop in town. Find a town that's full of nightlife and got some good parks, and you'll never be lonely. Let's look at the chat. Donald says it takes years to gather all the right tools, so I'm reluctant to let all of them go. Donald, I hear you on the tools. I'm a builder. I totally understand. My suggestion to you would be whittle your stuff down as much as you possibly can. Like the tools that are specialized, that were expensive, that are hard to find, get a small storage unit. You can get a 5x10 storage unit at a public storage place for like $60 a month. That's only, what is that, like $700 a year? So put them in storage, think about it, and then see if you use them or need them, and then think about how much it costs you to keep the tools in storage versus how much they're worth. Okay, so if you put your tools in a storage unit and it's $60 a month, and it's say it's $700 a year, then those tools cost you $700 to store every year. So if you're storing $3,000 worth of tools, then you could store them for about 3 years, and after that 3 year mark, it's actually cheaper to just replace the tools. So try that out, and you might realize within a few months that you don't really need them, and you're happy to let them go. But keep in mind, you can always repurchase the tools. I mean, there might be some specialty stuff you have or some stuff you really like. I understand. But something else I've done personally is I use Facebook Marketplace as a tool rental store. And I'll tell you what I mean. Over the past 6 years, I've done one, two, three, four. I've done 4 personal conversions that I've lived in while being a nomad. And so there's certain tools you have to have. The biggest tool that I always needed is a chop saw, like a miter saw, but I always got the good one, the compound one that has like the slide on it. So pretty big saw. And so what I realized is I had an initial saw that I bought at Home Depot. It was like $500, really nice. I had to let it go, so I sold it on Marketplace. Didn't get a lot of money for it. But what I did is when I needed a new saw to do a build the next year, I just went to Facebook Marketplace and I bought a saw. And I found one that was nice, like what I had. It was in good condition. I paid about a third of the price. I used it for the build out. And then when I was done with the build, I just resold it on Facebook Marketplace. So keep that in mind too, is that if there's a tool you need and you think you might need it in the future, you can always buy it used on Marketplace, use it for the time needed, and then just resell it. So that's kind of a nice little hack if you guys have bigger power tools or table saws or things that you're kind of concerned about. Robert Michael says, you're crushing it. I appreciate you, Robert. I always try to crush. Diana Saylor says, in your opinion, what gym membership is good for van life? Diana, I recommend Planet Fitness. The reason I recommend Planet Fitness is it's pretty affordable. It's about $30 a month, but many of the locations are 24 hours. Most of them are 24 hours. Now, on Sunday, it's different. Some of them will only be open to like 7 or 8 on Sunday. But most of the locations are 24 hours, and they're all over the country. Pretty much anywhere you go, unless you're in a real small like country town, pretty much anywhere you go, you'll have a Planet Fitness. There were 4 of them in San Diego alone. When I went to New Mexico last summer, there were like 6 of them just in Albuquerque, scattered all throughout Albuquerque, Planet Fitnesses. So I think that's the best bang for your buck as far as being able to travel and find locations. And even in Texas, I was in a pretty small town called Bastrop, and they had a Planet Fitness there. So that would be my recommendation for you guys. Robert says, I did notice the stretching. That's the main reason I went, because I really need to start stretching. Yes, Robert, yoga is great for stretching, and it builds strength. The great thing about yoga is it's all body weight exercises, especially some of them where you're like doing some poses with your arms. I used to do one called like I think crow pose, but you would like fold up your legs and fold up your arms, and you would tip forward, and you would balance your entire body weight on the palm of your hands. And so that was a pretty good workout, like for your arms and shoulders, and you have less of a chance of getting injured when you're just using your own body weight. So I think yoga is a really good choice. I'd like to get back into it. It's been a while. Outdoors Dreadhead says, I got a trailer for all my tools. That's something else you guys can do. I know a few nomads that travel with utility trailers that they pull behind them. Brian from Was a Bus, he lives in a short school bus. It's probably about 25 feet. And then he pulls like a 16-foot cargo trailer behind him. And he seems to enjoy it. I mean, he's been living that way for years. And he does conversion work, so he does not just electrical like me, but he does full build-outs, plumbing, cabinetry. So he has a lot of tools that he travels in his trailer. So he's pretty good about that. So he doesn't mind having the trailer. Let's see, back in the chat, Commuter Mike. Where did we go? Here we are. Commuter Mike says, I have a Planet Fitness membership, black card. Yep, Planet Fitness is everywhere. Also, Diana, if you get the black card, they have like these massage tables you can use called the hydro massage. And I use the hydro massage bed every time I go to the gym. It's super relaxing. Even when I'm just going to take a shower, after I shower, I always lay in the hydro massage bed, and it runs for like 10 minutes, and it just like has these water jets that kind of run up and down your body, and it's super relaxing. So I would definitely recommend Planet Fitness. Robert says, it's funny, I saw a news report about that island where you were camping and the locals were getting pissed off about it. Yeah, Robert, what's interesting is most people that get upset about what we're doing, about van lifers or nomads, it's either two reasons. It's either one, they're jealous that we have the freedom to do what we're doing and they wish they could do it, but they don't have the resources or they don't have the balls to do it. And so they're a little jealous. And because they can't do it, they feel we shouldn't be able to do it. Right. So that's like one side of the coin. People that complain. And then the other side of the coin of people that complain are just people that feel that there's a very linear path that society is supposed to follow, and they look down on anybody that doesn't live in that same path, right? And that I think that's the category a lot of the more wealthy people fall into, right? Where they have, the big mansion and they don't want people living in cars and stuff. I understand if you don't want like a broken down RV parked in front of your mansion, but I think a lot of the people that live more of that traditional lifestyle, they just feel that's how everyone should be living. And so they don't want anybody else kind of rocking the boat and living an alternative lifestyle. But, either way, the people that are upset about it, it's it's really has nothing to do with you, and it's more that they're upset and they're uncomfortable with the way that they're living. And it's more of a reflection on themselves than it is on you. Excluding, people that don't want homeless people living in their yard. Like, I totally understand that. But, most van lifers that I know, we're pretty respectful and, we don't leave a trace and we're not digging through trash cans. So I don't see any reason for people to really be upset about what we do. And let's see, John C. in the comments says, I remember you talking about working with cheap RV living, any important lessons or teachings from the people you met. So I did work with cheap RV living. His audience was mostly retired folks and specifically low income people. So his audience is like people living on Social Security, people living on $700 a month. And so the one thing I learned from working with Bob is just that you can definitely live this lifestyle on a very low income. But keep in mind, living on a super low income, you're still going to have the same stresses that you have living in an apartment on a super low income. Money's going to be tight. You're always going to have to be budgeting, and you're going to have to be very cautious about every dollar you spend. But that being said, I personally feel if you're going to be on low income, I think it's better to be in a van, out in nature. You still have some freedom to travel versus being in an apartment. I mean, if you're on low income and you're stuck in an apartment, that's it. You're done. That's where you live. It might be rent controlled. You probably can't afford to move anywhere else. You're going to be doing the same thing day in, day out, until you pass on. So to me, that sounds pretty depressing. I think, and if you watch Bob's channel, even the people that he interviews that are living in like a tiny little minivan or a car and they have $700 a month, they're happy. They're smiling, and they'll tell you how much better it is than living in their apartment on $700 a month with a roommate. So I still think van life is a superior option. And I think the other thing I learned from working with Bob, which I kind of touched on earlier, was just that there's a lot of single people, single women especially, that are kind of starting over. And so if you're a single person, male or female, you'll find your tribe, and you'll find a lot of other people with the same situation as you. A lot of people recently divorced, a lot of people that are widowers, and once their spouse passed, they decided to go travel. So you'll see that there's whatever your life situation is, you'll meet people out there that are in the same boat as you, and you'll find someone to share a campfire with and share stories with. So it's pretty cool to see all the different folks that are out there making it happen. Robert says, I appreciate how you were showing parking spots. Yes, Robert, I'm going to keep that going. Based on my YouTube channel, it looks like the stealth camping videos I have been publishing have been very popular. Those got the most views. So, I've been struggling for the last few months trying to figure out what kind of content to make on the YouTube channel. And a lot of it's been build content because I've been building out my van. But I am going to shift towards doing more stealth camping videos. So you can look forward to more of that in the future. I'll be sharing, again, how I find parking spots and resources and all that kind of stuff. Robert says, I'm already looking for spots where I can park a truck at night and camp out without anybody bugging me. I'll tell you what, Robert, the cool thing about van life is you have to look at it as a game. And if you look at it as a game, then it becomes fun and it becomes more lighthearted. And then you don't feel the heaviness of like here's an example. If you're looking for a spot to park and you're not sure if it's okay to park here or is someone going to bother you, you can have the mindset of like, this is serious, and if I can't park here, someone's going to give me the knock and they're going to ask me to move, and there might be a police officer that comes up and it's real serious, right? So you can have that mindset, and that's going to stress you out and just make the experience not enjoyable. But if you look at van life as a game and say, okay, let's figure out where I can stay. Let's figure out if I can stay here without getting caught. Then it becomes kind of more fun and more of a challenge. And if you do get caught, oops, I lost, let's try again. So it kind of takes some of the seriousness out of it, and you don't feel like there's these heavy repercussions, because the honest reality is, for the most part, if you're parking somewhere you're not supposed to, for the most part, you're just going to get a knock and they're going to ask you to leave. And that's it. And then you just go find a new place to park. It's pretty rare that you're going to be in your van and you're going to get a ticket. And it's even more rare that you're going to get towed. Like, you're really not going to get towed while you're in your vehicle. If a tow truck comes up, you open the window and say, I'm in here, and it's illegal to tow a vehicle with somebody inside of it. So it's really not that big of a deal. Don't be too scared, and just look at it as a game. Find a spot to park, try it out. If it doesn't work, try another spot. Keep going. Keep going until you win, and then keep on winning. And, in the 6 years that I've been doing van life, I've never got towed. Only one time have I got the knock. And it was when I tried to stealth camp in a hotel parking lot, and the manager saw me pull in, and they immediately came out and they were like, if you don't buy a hotel room, you can't stay here. So, I mean, I wasn't even out of my driver's seat yet. So, and that's it. That's the only times I've ever had any issues. So, don't be afraid. Don't be worried about it. Robert says, I can't imagine what it's like living in California paying those taxes. That's the thing, Robert. I pay taxes to the state of Arizona, which is relatively low. You can have a dwelling in another state. Washington has no income tax. There's a couple other states. I think Wyoming has no income tax, but you can have a residence in a different state, and then taxes are way lower. And then you can go travel to California and stay in the parking lot for free, and you're not paying any of those BS taxes. So that's another good reason to hop into van life. Let's see. Donald says, my son lives in the desert, so that's where I'll build my 17-footer. Where I'll leave the bigger tools, like my lathe, large table saw. Yeah, that's a great one. If you have family where you could leave the tools, then that's a good option as well. Let's see what's going on here. Robert says audio is good and clear. Happy to hear that. I'm glad we got the audio dialed in. I know the last live I did, my audio was a little sketchy, so I'm glad that it's better today. And let's see what else is going on. Okay, Robert, that's why they were mad in San Diego, because you guys were living there and they're paying those ridiculous real estate taxes. Yeah, taxes are ridiculous. Like, I don't know what to tell you. The taxes suck. Like, if I don't have to pay taxes, I'm not going to. And that's funny, right? And so see how when I talked earlier, right, about people that are upset with you for being in a van, they're not upset with you living in a van. They're upset that they're paying property taxes, huge property taxes, and you're not. But that's a choice they made. It's a choice. They chose to live in California. They chose to pay whatever ungodly amount of money they paid for that house. We're choosing not to live in California and not to pay money for a California house. And the trade-off is they have a nice house in California with regular trash service and a lawn and, you know, whatever else, and we don't have a trash service and we don't have our own lawn, but that's the trade-off. So if they're really that upset about it, they should sell their house, which, by the way, property values are through the roof. So if they sell their house, they could probably get a pretty good profit out of it. And then they could move into a van and park on the street in San Diego. So people like that, you know, they're just mad at themselves. And you really can't let that affect you. Like, don't let that fall down on you as that's your problem, because it's not. It's a personal problem with them. So bring it on. Bring it on, guys. All right. So I'm going to hop over to the slides, and we'll see what the next little bullet points are that I had prepared here. Let's see. Okay, so here we go. This is, again, about minimalism a little bit, but a couple things I wanted to cover. So I already pretty much hit on less stuff equals more time. You have less things to do, less possessions, which gives you more free time. But here's some of the benefits of kind of a minimalism lifestyle is that everything can be your favorite, and you can have really nice, expensive stuff. And again, I want to really just drive home the point that van life doesn't have to be poverty. Like you shouldn't feel like you're downgrading your life to live in a van. A van should be an upgrade to freedom. And so, for example, when you have less stuff, your stuff can be nicer, right? So, like, for example, shoes. Most people have probably 5 or 6 pairs of shoes at their house. If you're a lady, you probably have a lot more pairs of shoes. And, you know, your average pair of shoes you have is $40 to $50 a pair. So, you know, you might have $250 to $300 worth of shoes in your house right now. But when you move into a van, you know, you'll probably only have 2 or 3 pairs, but they can be really nice. You can buy a $150 pair of shoes or $200 pair of shoes, something that's really nice, really comfortable, look really cool, something you really enjoy. Because you have less stuff, each item you have, it can be higher quality and it can be more enjoyable. And that goes for everything. Like, for example, for me, when I bought my skillet to cook with, I bought a French enameled cast iron skillet. It was like $175 just for one skillet. But my thought process was, I'm only going to have one skillet. I'm going to use it every day. So I want a really nice one. And it's orange. It matches my van. It works really well. It's easy to clean. And I really enjoy using it. So I feel like that's a trade-off, you know, instead of a good trade-off. Instead of having, you know, a $200 pot and pan set from Walmart that kind of suck and they're just not really that great, I have a really, really nice skillet that I love using. And I also have I have a couple linen button-up dress shirts that cost me $80 a piece. You know, and instead of having a whole closet of $20 button-up shirts, I have 3 $80 button-up shirts. But I'll tell you, these linen button-up shirts, like, they're super comfortable. They fit me really well, and I just really enjoy how they feel on me and how I look in them. So, you know, you guys keep that in mind when you're looking at stuff for van life. It's totally okay to get nice things, spend good money, have stuff you enjoy, and really make it an enjoyable experience. And then going on with that, also, it's okay to treat yourself. So one thing that's interesting, and this is something I learned actually going back to the previous comment, this is something I learned from working with Bob Wells from Cheap RV Living, is a lot of nomads would get into kind of this like mindset of like, oh, well, when you live in a van, then if you stay in a hotel or if you rent an Airbnb, then you're giving up or you're cheating or you're being lazy. Like this idea that because you live van life, now you can only be in a van And if you leave a van or do other things that are not van related, then like you're a sellout, which is absolutely ridiculous. And so people would get in these comments about like, oh, well, I've never stayed in a hotel, or, my van is more minimal than your van and I can get by with less. And it's totally backwards thinking. You want to always live the best life you can. And so it's okay to treat yourself to nice things, experiences. So stay in a hotel. All the money that you're saving by living in a van, rent a couple nights in a really nice hotel, sleep in the big comfy bed, go swim in the pool, lay in the jacuzzi, get the expensive hotel with the breakfast buffet, get up, put on the robe, go have the unlimited complimentary bacon and eggs, and have a good time. This life is short. It goes by fast. It's important that you're enjoying yourself. So when you live this lifestyle, with all the money you're saving, use that money to increase and improve the quality of your life, whether that be better things or more experiences, better experiences. Don't feel like you have to be, super frugal. Of course, stay within your budget, but whatever budget you have that's for spending, spend the heck out of it. Enjoy yourself. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, with less stuff, more time, and just mindset and habits is, I kind of touched on this earlier, but no matter where you are, you have everything you need. So whatever situation you're in, if you're at the beach hanging out, even if you're broken down on the side of the road, right? And this is interesting because a lot of people, that's like their biggest fear. And I understand it. I know it's stressful to have a breakdown and you can feel kind of helpless, but when you break down in your van, you have your entire house with you. So even though mentally it's like, oh, I got to figure this out, you're at home. So you can go inside. If you have to wait 4 hours for a tow truck, you just go inside your house, make some food, take a nap, watch some Netflix. You know what I mean? Do whatever you want. And wherever you go, you have that same luxury. Your stuff is always with you. And so it's really super convenient just to have that and to know that wherever you go, anything you could need, it's right there by your side. So super, super freeing mentally. And I look at all these people, like say the people in California that live in these big mansions and they have these big fancy cars, and they have, $100,000 BMWs. But that $100,000 BMW, all that is a transport device. They have nothing in it. There's no refrigerator. If they want a cold drink, they got to drive to a store. If they want to go to the beach, they got to spend half an hour packing up a duffel bag, going to the beach, and then when they're done at the beach, they got to drive home, and then they got to unpack their duffel bag. It's completely ridiculous. It's so backwards. I really feel like everybody, regardless of your living situation, everybody should have a van with at least spare clothes, a solar panel, a refrigerator. I mean, why not? Your vehicle should be a tool that you use and enjoy. So really keep that in mind. And I think people really have their thoughts backwards. I can't imagine owning a $100,000 car and all it is a pair of leather seats. I mean, what good is that? It's completely ridiculous. Katie in New Hampshire says, I think the shirt example is a great one to apply. That is what I'm saying, Katie. Have nice things. Even if your life, even in your regular life. Yeah, this applies to everybody. A lot of these rules are not just for van life, but of course this is a van life chat, but the reason van life helps facilitate these things is because it frees up your finances. So it enables you to afford things that you couldn't afford in your previous life, right? Like for example, if you have an apartment, once you move into your van, that $1,000 a month you're spending on rent, that's now going into your savings account. So you can take that $1,000 and you can buy some nice shoes, nice shirts, kind of whatever you want. So of course that applies to all aspects of life, but especially for lower income people, because when you switch to van life, you can take, like, let's say for example your income is $3,000 a month, which, if you're trying to rent your own place, $3,000 a month doesn't go very far. right? So if you have $3,000 a month, you might be spending $1,500 on rent, and then you still have a car or some kind of transportation you're paying for, all your utilities. So you could be $2,000 a month plus just on your bills, and then maybe you have $1,000 a month that you spend on yourself and shopping and groceries and stuff. But if you take that same $3,000 a month and you're living in a van, I showed you guys my cost of living in a van. When I was in Austin, Texas, for the month of July, I think June or July, my complete bills for the entire month were $1,300. So that means now, instead of having $1,000 a month, if you're making $3,000, instead of having $1,000 a month to put towards whatever you want, now you have $2,000 a month that you can put toward, over $2,000 you can put towards kind of whatever you want. So you can see how if you're on the lower end of the income scale, by going to van life, your quality of life can drastically increase, because now you have an extra $1,000 a month. That could buy you a lot of linen shirts. That could buy you, you could stay in a fancy hotel one night a week for $1,000, a couple $100 a night, 4 nights. You could have a good time, with that extra money. So really, really be intentional about how you're spending your money and what you're putting it towards. Diana Saylor says, weirdly enough, I only have tennis shoes, ankle boots, and slippers. Diana is already ready for this lifestyle. She's got tennis shoes, ankle boots, and slippers. I do need to buy some summer sandals. There you go, Diana, summer sandals. And once you get into a van and start stacking up some savings, you can go shoe shopping and get something you really like and just have a good time. Robert says that's a really good point about living your best life with the money you've saved, not having a house and all the other crap. Yeah, you really have to just look at it as what you're paying to for a spot to sleep at night. That's really all a house is for the most part. It's a spot to sleep at night. And so when you redirect that fund or that money towards other things, you can put it in some really fun areas. Mike has entered the chat. What's up, Mike? Good to see you. Happy to have you here, brother. Hope your transit or your ProMaster is working out well. I met Mike in San Diego, did a solar install for him. That was 2 videos ago. I shared a little bit about that solar install. We got caught in a crazy rainstorm, and I want to give Mike a shout out for being a hard-working dude. It was dumping down rain on us. I was getting soaked. My glasses were covered in rain, but Mike was there helping me out, attaching the mounting brackets on the solar panels. He was a soldier. Mike was an absolute soldier, one of my favorite clients to work with. Mike had a great positive attitude and just a really cool guy. So I look forward to seeing Mike again in California and helping him out with his ProMaster. Robert Michael says a few nights a month in a 5-star hotel. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, buddy. That's what I'm saying. Hotels are fun. Spending this last week with my mom, driving from Austin to Arizona, we stayed in a couple nice hotels. I stayed in a nice one in Tucson that had huge room, nice big pool, hot tub, really nice breakfast buffet. They actually had like fresh homemade omelets, bacon, sausage. It was incredible. And so I went out every morning and did some computer work in the lobby and had awesome breakfast buffet. It was such a good time. So, get out there and enjoy yourself. And it's something else that would be fun too is if you guys like doing, music, going to concerts and stuff, you can even roll that money into kind of a double feature where you just park your van at the hotel, get a hotel room for the night, go to a concert, go out, have a good time, go back to the hotel and then stay the night in a fancy hotel. And that's almost like a little weekend getaway. So there's all kinds of fun stuff to do. Adventures with Super Dave just gave me a $5 chat. I appreciate it, Super Dave. I appreciate the ongoing support. Dave is a soldier. He's one of the monthly channel members, and so he supports the channel monthly with a generous donation, and I appreciate the donation here in the chat as well. Every little bit you guys can share with me, it just helps me keep going on the road. Money's tight. I haven't done a lot of solar jobs recently, so it always is nice to have support from you guys. Now, this is the lifestyle I've chose. Money's been tight for a long time just because I've chosen that, right? I've chosen to to travel a lot. It's harder to operate a business, an in-person business, which is solar install. It's challenging to operate that while you're always moving. I'm still getting phone calls from people in Austin, Texas that want me to do solar installs. If I would have stayed in Austin, Texas this whole time, I would have made a ton of money, but it wouldn't have been as enjoyable. And I'm just at a point in my life where I'm putting experiences and joy over money. So if you're heading in the right direction towards something you enjoy, the money will always be there. It might not be an abundance of money all the time, but it comes and goes, and we only have so much time in the hourglass, so I want to spend my time the way that I see fit. And that's what I'm doing right now in Yuma, Arizona, having a live chat with you guys. I appreciate you all being here. Kelly says, small is beautiful, which is a quote by E.F. Schumacher. I like it. Small is beautiful. Absolutely. I'm living the small life, and I love it. Love it was so beautiful living on the beach in San Diego. Oh my God. The sunsets I saw were absolutely incredible. Donald says, I am a current van owner. It's the only way I think I'm okay to be here. It's a 95 E150 conversion. Anyone is welcome to be here, Donald. Even if you're living in a house or an apartment, I don't care. I'm happy to have you here. And everyone has to start somewhere. So anyone who lives in a van, at one point you didn't live in a van. I highly doubt any of you people were born in a van and remained in a van your whole life. So anybody that's here now, even if you've been a nomad for 10 years, at one point you were living in a traditional house and you were just thinking about becoming a nomad. So this is the first step and a good way to kind of get some experience and some insight into the lifestyle. Kelly Wilkins says, I'm always blown away by the awnings or expansions to RVs people come up with. Yeah, Kelly, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. RV awnings, I guess maybe like they have the awnings and then they also have like the zippers. You can get like the zipper walls that attach to the awnings to make like little outdoor spaces. Maybe that's what she's talking about. I've seen those. Those are pretty cool. Donald Frazier, Class A for over 2 years. Donald Frazier, were you in a Class A for 2 years and now you're going to be transitioning into a van? Is that true? I would be curious to hear about your thoughts on coming from an RV and then transitioning into a van. That's obviously a much smaller footprint. And while Donald thinks about that, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my next slide. Let's see if we have anything else. Okay, cool. So I think I got one more for you guys here. And this is called Slow Down and Enjoy the Magic, or enjoy the journey, I should say. Slow down and enjoy the journey. You guys can't see it because my face is in the way. But this one's pretty important too. And so much like with what I was talking about earlier, van life runs at a different pace than your 9 to 5. And that's a good thing. The reason we're doing this lifestyle is to try something different. And so just keep in mind, things will be different. Things will move at a slower pace. You might be driving slower. You might be driving 55 instead of 70 in your little commuter car. So things move slower. You might have to pull over and turn around. You might get a little bit lost. So, which is all this part of the experience. So just mentally be prepared with the idea that things are going to move a little slower. And then what I like to say is it's good practice to have a schedule. And this goes for two types of schedules. There's basically your travel schedule, which is when you're on a move from one location to the next. So whether you're driving for a couple hours or a couple days, when you're traveling between locations, that's kind of your travel time. And then when you're at a location where you're going to be staying for a while, whether that's a campground or BLM land or wherever you might be staying at, that's kind of your permanent location. But whenever you're doing that, I think it's good to have a kind of a rough schedule of how far you'd like to go, things you want to accomplish. But I think it's really important, especially in a travel schedule, to leave, don't be so focused on getting from A to B that you skip over things in between along the way. And what I mean by that is you might say like I'm starting at point A, I want to be in point B, by tonight, so I have to drive 6 hours. So I'm going to drive 6 hours straight through. I'm not stopping, I'm not pulling over. But I would say if you see something along the road that kind of catches your eye or something that's interesting, I would say if you feel called to explore it or to take an exit or pull over and look at an overpass or maybe you're at like a viewpoint, take that opportunity because sometimes you'll find really cool experiences when you least expect it. And the cool experiences often happen during the time in between the things you have scheduled. And it's interesting, but I feel like when you're in that in between time, in between the things you've scheduled, there's a greater opportunity for random occurrences. And this gets a little woo woo for some of you people, but I really think the universe has a lot of kind of randomness kind of programmed into it. And I think when you're kind of off the beaten path and you have your mind open and your eyes open and you're not set to a rigid schedule, you have more opportunity to kind of see some of the unique things that the universe has to offer that you would normally just overlook. And that's the same as people that are so busy in their day-to-day life and they're getting up and they're going to work and they're going to the store and they're picking up the kids and you're so busy going from point to point to point that you're just in a routine and you're in a loop and there's no chance for like kind of the magic of the universe and the natural world to kind of pop up and surprise you because you're so focused on the next thing you don't take the blinders off. But when you're living van life, you go slow, you take the time. I see in the chat, Diana just mentioned she is thinking about finding covered bridges and waterfalls. That's a great example, right? So if you're driving and you see a covered bridge or you see a waterfall or a lookout point and it catches your eye, pull over and check it out. Explore the area, just kind of take it in and, at the very least, I think you'll find it relaxing and you'll find it exciting to experience a new place. But the best case scenario is you might just have something totally unexpected happen that you totally wouldn't have even known about. But because you took the time to stop and explore the possibilities, then that presents itself. And I'll share with you guys a personal story of how that happened to me. Okay, so I'll tell you my version of that story, and this is leaving room in the schedule for the magic. So this would have been about 2 years ago. I was in my previous box truck. I just converted it out. I was up in Oregon, and the place I was staying at was near these hot springs. And I was driving to go. I had a destination. I don't remember what it was, but I was driving specifically to go to this destination. I was going past the hot springs, and I really liked the hot springs, and I wanted to go, but like my, professional old school mind was like, no, we have a deadline. We have to go to this place. But then the van life side of me was like, I kind of really just want to soak in the hot spring. And I was like, I don't know. But so I let the van life side win. And I decided, you know what? I'm just going to pull over. I'll take an hour and I'll go down and explore this hot spring. This was pretty early in the morning, not early morning, but it was like 11 a.m. So it was early in the day. Usually when you go to a hot spring, it's more like late afternoon, evening. So this was like 11 a.m. It was kind of early to be at the hot spring. And so I went to this spring. It's like a mile hike off the parking lot. Park my box truck, hike a mile down through the trees, along the river, super beautiful. I get down to the hot spring. There's nobody there. It's just me, which is like perfect. Usually I like to be alone in a hot spring, just kind of hang out, soak up the nature. So I'm there. I'm just swimming around, hanging out. And about half an hour after being there all by myself at this hot spring, I can see somebody walking down the path. And as he gets closer to me, it's this gentleman he's wearing a swimsuit, only swimsuit bottoms, no shirt, and he has a guitar, like an acoustic guitar, slung over his back. And I mean, when you're doing van life, there's a lot of like guitar people and a lot of hippies and a lot of that's a pretty common sight. And so the guy came down, but he looked pretty clean cut. He didn't look like your typical van life guitar player. He had a nice haircut. He had some pretty fancy eyeglasses on. And so he came in the hot spring. I usually in the hot spring, I'm not like a conversation starter. I just kind of like to enjoy the space and let the people enjoy their space. But we ended up um, we ended up getting into a conversation. Donald asks if this was Brighton Bush Hot Spring. I am familiar with Brighton Bush. It was not. It was McCready Hot Springs, which is just outside Eugene, Oregon. And so I got to talking with this gentleman. His name was Ty, and it turns out so this was like 2022. 2021, 2022. So COVID was still like, COVID wasn't really that big of a deal, but it was kind of a deal. And so what I found out is this gentleman was a like famous classical trained guitarist, and he actually graduated from that musical school in New York. I can't remember the name of it. Is it Juilliard? Is that dancing? I forget the name of it, but there's a really fancy like classical music school in New York. He graduated from it. He's like a classical music prodigy, and he was supposed to be on a tour, like a nationwide guitar tour, and it got shut down due to COVID. And so he has parents that happen to live near the hot. Yeah, Juilliard. Okay, yeah. So he was a guitarist that graduated Juilliard, and so they happen to live near this hot spring, and he just came down to the hot spring to like hang out for the day. And he was like this super cool dude, and we just like hit it off in a friendly manner, by the way, just in a platonic way. And so we hit it off, became friends, and so he ended up at the time I had like a crew of like three or four different van lifers that we all kind of like hung out with. And that same summer, we were actually doing a van life meetup up in Bend, Oregon, where we actually held an event, had a bunch of van life people come out. And so I got talking to Ty and invited him out to this event. And I was like, hey, dude, if you want to come hang out, you know, it's just a van life meetup. You're welcome to come by. And he ended up coming by and playing classical guitar for the entire crew on the hood of his SUV. And so I'm going to try to play this video for you, and hopefully it works. Hopefully you guys can hear it. Let's see. I don't know if it'll work. We'll try it. So this right here, this is a picture of Ty. I forget his last name. Ty Austin. He goes by Ty Austin. I don't think that's his real last name, but that's what he goes by. Let me know if you guys can hear this. Hopefully it comes through. I don't know. Appreciate the van life magic.
For some strange reason I could not turn my head. I walked up to her and this is what I said. Hello, my name is what you've been waiting for. I'd gladly give my heart and the key to a pocket store, but only if you tend to marry me. Your man, I promise you, I can show you pick. When I thought I had seen the look of love in your eyes, but in all actuality, it was merely a disguise. Could have sworn that I'd seen the look of love in your eyes, but in all actuality, it was merely a disguise.
All right, guys. I know the audio is super low. That's just what it is. But hopefully you could kind of hear that and see that. But um, this is just an example of like van life magic. Like I decided to go to this hot spring. I met this Juilliard trained guitarist. He came to this nomad hangout we had, and he played for like a half an hour on the hood of his SUV, and it was like really incredible high quality classical guitar music, and he sang for us. And I'm like, these are the things that you these are the things you come across. And I mean, this is just one experience I've had, but this is the cool stuff that you come across when you kind of just slow down and follow the universe and just be open to really cool experiences. And I have so many more experiences like this, but that's what I want for you guys is I want for you guys to get out there and to move slow and look for this van life magic that will ultimately pop up in your life. And it's just so cool, and it's so much different than what you'll experience in your regular life. I mean, everyone's so busy going to work, going to the store. You just don't experience this kind of stuff. And this is really like the things that make life exciting and make you feel alive. So um, I hope that you guys are able to find stuff like this on your van life journey. So I'm gonna hop back in the chats. I'm gonna wrap it up pretty soon, guys. I've went over by quite a bit just because we're having a good time. So if you have any last minute questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat, and I'll try to get to them here. But otherwise, we're gonna wrap up in a little bit. I appreciate all you guys for being here. Robert, yep, you're right. Super cool random experience I'll take to the grave. I'll never forget Ty Austin. It was such a cool time. He's a super cool dude. Kind of reminds me of Bradley from Sublime. Yeah, sure. Yep. Yeah, he has really good vocals, and I get a little Sublime from that. Absolutely. Let's see what else we got here in the chat. In a Flash network, I want to retire with my wife in travel photography and videography. There you go. In a Flash, that's a great option. That's a great hobby, and that's also an option that you can make some money from. If you just want to retire and do it for fun, that's totally fine too. But if you want to try to get a little side hustle going by selling your photography or videography, there's a lot of options to do that. Robert Michael says, "Look at that hat." Ty Austin was a character, I'll tell you what. The hat, the glasses, everything about him. I mean, he was definitely an artist, and so he had some pretty funky aesthetic. But he was a good dude. Robert Michael says that's what happens when you're in the universe. Absolutely. Diana says you can't make this stuff up. That's neat. I bet he enjoyed himself. He did enjoy himself. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up, and I have video evidence. Oh my goodness. King Gamer, how you doing, King Gamer? He says 3 days into van life, and this morning a cat fight broke out right in front of my car. Never seen one before. Yeah, that's something you'll come across. Cat life. You'll hear like raccoons fighting, dogs barking, all kinds of stuff. Robert Michael, thanks for being here, brother. I appreciate you being here. Cole says, I'm looking to build out a box truck. Do you think that there is a size limit to reasonably camp in urban areas like San Diego? Yes, Cole, thank you for asking. I have the 12-foot box truck. I can park it anywhere. And so I think a 12-foot box truck is the limit if you want to park it anywhere. And I say that because I have a couple friends I was with in San Diego, and they have the next size up. So my 12-foot box truck is 21 feet from bumper to bumper, so that fits in a regular parking space. But the next size up is about 25 feet, and when you get up to 25 feet, you cannot fit in a regular parking space. So there's certain places that I was able to go in San Diego that my friends could not park because they were too long. So that being said, there are still places you can park with an X size up truck, but it will be limited. So it depends what you want to do. But if you're talking about like legit city stealth camping, I would say get the 12 foot. That's going to be your limit. Otherwise, especially like in an actual city, like downtown in a city, you're going to be limited on parking. Let's see what else is going on here. Kelly says, very fun. I didn't see your channel when I joined the stream, and I'm pretty sure I enjoyed your install videos. Kelly, thank you for coming out tonight. I appreciate you hopping on the live, and I appreciate even more that you didn't even know who I was. You just hopped on a live and it decided to hang out for an hour with us. I appreciate having you here, Kelly. Super Dave said, man, it takes a while to build the box truck. It does, Super Dave. It takes a long time. I've been building vehicles for 6 years now, and this box truck, it still takes forever. You know, if I was going to build this thing from start to finish, if I was working full time, 40 hours a week nonstop, it would still take me, probably 5 or 6 months to build this thing out by myself. If you're a newbie, it could take you a year or longer, to figure it out, make mistakes, cut something wrong, have to start over. Don't kid yourself. It takes time. It's a time commitment, and that's why I recommend for people, if they're in a hurry to hit the road, I recommend a shuttle bus, because shuttle bus is very easy. You already have the doors. You already have stairs getting in. You already have windows. All you have to do is basically put in your furniture and your electrical, and depending what you're willing to do, you can use regular furniture in a shuttle bus. You can go get a sink cabinet from Home Depot and just throw it in. You can use a regular bed frame. I mean, you can use an apartment mini fridge. You don't have to insulate it or do any wall paneling. Shuttle buses are very fast. So if you're looking to get on the road quickly, you might consider a shuttle bus, with the goal of, down the road, I'm going to get a box truck after I travel for a while. It depends what your goals are, what your time frame is. But if you're in a hurry to hit the road, I would definitely recommend a shuttle bus. And then let's check down on the comments again. Weston says, how do you feel about having a 14-foot box truck, or whatever size you would have? Ever consider moving down to a 10 or 12 foot with a mom's attic? So Weston, I am in a 12 foot with a mom's attic. And so I already gave my previous comment, but yeah, 12 foot with mom's attic is plenty of space for me. I honestly don't need a bigger box truck. If I had more space, I would probably put in a shower, but you could put a shower in here if you wanted. There's plenty of space for a shower in this one. I think a 12 foot is just fine. Um, you could do a 14 if you wanted, though. You just would be limited on parking. Just depends what you want to do. Oh, King Gamer says it's a real cat fight. King Gamer, when you said cat fight, I thought you meant with cats. King Gamer says he saw a cat fight with girls. Oh my goodness. The girl in the black hoodie, for sure. The other girl lost some hair. King Gamer, this was in Yuma? Where were you parked at, dude? You must have been in a Walmart or something. You must have had a couple people fighting over the rollback specials. Home Depot have parking issues? No. I mean, there's a lot of places you can park and not have issues. Home Depot is fine. Um, Even in a grocery store is fine. If you can find a pull-through spot where you have two parking spots, like any kind of shopping complex where you have two parking spots, one that's front to back, you can pull through and occupy two spaces. The only time you're going to struggle is when you're in a spot where there's only a single row of parking spaces, where there's like a spot to pull in, the parking space, and then like a curb behind it. Like in San Diego, some of the parks there, they're set up like that, where it's just a row you pull in, a parking space, and then a curb. So even if you back all the way up with your back tire against the curb, your front end, if you're in like a 24-foot box truck, your front end is hanging out of the parking space like 3 feet. So you're into the flow of traffic. You could get a ticket for being outside your parking space. So something to think about. Outdoors Dreadhead says, I'm looking forward to get to get van life going along with a YouTube channel, absolutely. If you guys are thinking about it, definitely get into a YouTube channel. It's a great way to document your life. And one thing I wanted to mention too is even if you're not in the mindset of like, I'm going to grow a YouTube channel and make it a business, because it is a lot of time commitment to publish a video, film, edit, publish a video regularly. It's a lot of effort. But even if you don't want to do that, I recommend you do it just for yourself, just to create this, basically a video. It's like a video photo book where you can create videos of your travels, post them on YouTube, you can share them with friends and family, and it's also a way for you to go and look back on your adventures and not just look at photos, but have like video documentary of where you went, what you were doing, how you've changed. And then if you have children, I mean, these videos will live on the internet forever. So then if you have kids or grandkids, they can go and look back and see what Grandpa Dreadhead was doing, back when he was crazy living in a van. So I think it's nice to just document just for your own records what you've been going through. Bargain Labels said, I just bought a 17 foot. It's 23 and a half feet long. Awesome. So Bargain Labels has their box truck is 23 and a half on the 17-foot rig. So that's good to know. So yeah, not too much bigger than mine. Mine's 21 feet. I think I might be confusing it with the shuttle bus. I think the larger shuttle bus is 25 feet. That was like the build I did for Big Red. I think it was 25 feet. And the friends I have in San Diego that have the next size up rig, it's the shuttle bus. So the shuttle bus might be just a little bit longer than the 17-foot U-Haul. Katie says, what Mac do you use for editing? What editing software? So I have a MacBook M1 Pro, and one thing to consider is depending what type of video you're going to edit, if you film in 4K footage, 4K video is pretty intense on the computer, so you need to have a fast processor and a lot of memory. So if you're going to shoot 4K footage, you need to have a pretty new computer and a pretty fast one. If you're just going to shoot 1080, then you can use an older computer or a cheaper one. I always recommend Mac brand computers. I've been a Mac user forever, 10 years plus I've used Mac. I did try a PC-based laptop for a while and I hated it. The PC laptops have all this third-party software and antivirus software, and you have like Microsoft Windows, and then you have like Microsoft Word, and you have all these different subscriptions. The nice thing about a Mac computer is everything is made by Mac, and it's all included with your computer or your laptop. So you don't have to buy subscriptions, you don't have to buy Microsoft Office. It's all free, it's all included, it updates forever. Your operating systems are always free forever. So all you do is you buy the laptop and you're done. And I think that's really nice. Also, with Macintosh, because all the software is made by Mac, or if it's not made by Mac, it's certified by Mac. So you don't have like all the crashes, you don't have a blue screen of death, you don't have all the weird like, your little mouse cursor gets into the spinning wheel of doom. You don't have all those weird glitches that you run into with PCs. So I 100% recommend Mac. Now what I do, and I told King Gamer about this because he was thinking about getting a laptop. I don't buy new laptops because I think just like buying cars, when you buy a brand new laptop, they depreciate pretty quick. And so what I do is I buy laptops that are 1 to 2 years old. And when you buy a Macintosh a Macintosh laptop, their cycle life is like 5 to 6 years. Like a Mac will be good for 5 to 6 years before it's outdated. So I buy one that's like 1 to 2 years old, and I use it for about 3 years, and then I just resell it. And so I buy used Mac laptops on eBay. I always buy eBay has certified, refurbished, guaranteed Mac laptops. So I find one that's like a year old. Cosmetically, it looks brand new. It's certified refurbished, so you're not getting some weird scam junk. And if something's wrong with it, you just send it back. They give you a full refund. And then by buying it used, it's a year or two old, you save like 30% off retail. And then in 3 years, when you go to upgrade, you just sell that that laptop again on eBay, and you'll be able to recover some of your cost. So if you do that every, 4 or 5 years, then you basically just spend a few $100 a year and you always have like a brand new laptop. So that's how I do it. I recommend Mac laptops. Robert Michael says, good tip about the shuttle buses. It's a quick option. Yes. Yes. If you're in a pinch, go shuttle bus. Let's see what else we got. Donald Frazier, what do you think about U-Haul truck sales? 10K average and about 50 miles from me. Yeah, U-Haul truck sales is good. They inspect all their vehicles before they sell them, so they'll tell you if something's wrong with it. Also, they have service records, so that's a pretty good idea. What is the length of a shuttle bus usually? So, Robert, if you go with the bigger shuttle bus, I don't know how to tell you the size of them, but there's like a mid-sized shuttle bus that's like 25 feet. That's what my friends had in San Diego. And then you can get the size shuttle bus I had, which is one step down, which is about the same size as this rig, and it's 21 feet bumper to bumper. So you'll just have to ask the people, that are selling them what the length is. Just ask them what's the overall length, bumper to bumper. They'll tell you. But there's basically two different sizes you should consider. One is 21.5 feet. One is 25 feet. And those are the two that are like spacious enough to be comfortable in, but still can park pretty much anywhere. Also, they're just super heavy duty. The shuttle buses, all the components. They're a good choice. Let's see what else we got. Adventures with Super Dave. I drove RVs for delivery for 10 years and never had a problem with parking. Yeah, it just depends what you're doing, guys. You can always find parking if you need it. The only thing I'll comment on is if you want to do stealth city parking, size is an issue. But if your preference is to have a bigger vehicle, as long as that's your preference, then you just make sure you look for parking. So I don't want you to think that because you have a bigger vehicle, you cannot park it. That is not true. You will just have less options. So if you have a bigger vehicle, you just need to make sure you're prioritizing parking when you're looking for a space. Let's see what else we got. Dating. Weston says, dating. How have you found women's reaction when you tell them you live in a van or bring them back to the van? So I've done quite a bit of dating. Believe it or not, this van gets a rockin', baby. So obviously it's pretty easy to date people that are also nomads because they totally get it. And I actually like dating nomads, and I think like for me, the ideal long-term dating situation would be another nomad because you each have your own living space. You don't have to be in each other's stuff, which even compared to if you're just living together in a house, you're sharing the bathroom, you're sharing the kitchen, you're sharing the closet. All of her stuff is all over the place. There's makeup all over the counter. So when you're living in vans, you all have your own respective space, and also you get that alone time. So you can sleep in your own bed, and you can share beds when you're feeling like it, but also you can retreat and have your own space. So I feel like just from a relationship standpoint, it's actually probably easier to maintain a healthy relationship when you each have your own vehicles and you can go do your own thing. You can spend a few nights apart. I think traditional living is pretty crazy that like once you get married, you're supposed to share a bed with that person until you die. Like when you think about it, that's pretty crazy. And I really am not shocked at how many marriages and relationships fail when you realize that you're just kind of thrown into this relationship and you're around this other person who is their own person and has their own rules and goals and values, and you have to you're smushed together in one living space and you have to do that forever. It's absolute madness. So yeah, dating's actually pretty cool in a van. If you can find other people that live in a van, that's awesome. It's obviously harder to date someone that's not in a van because you're going to go travel. And so it's going to be a really short-term relationship. So if you're looking for something long-term, they're going to pretty much have to be a nomad. But if you're going to be van dwelling in a city, like some people don't have ambitions to travel, which is totally cool. Like I could see myself just living in a van in San Diego full time for years and being okay with it. It wouldn't be preferred, but I could be okay with that. So if I was someone that didn't like to travel as much, I could understand why you would want to live in a city in a van and not travel. And so in that case, you could totally just date regular people and just tell them you live in a van. And if they're not cool with it, I mean, that's not someone you want to date anyway. Why, what, that's a good way to weed people out. That's going to weed out all the gold diggers that just want money and cars and all the superficial people that are worried about what other people think about them. So it's a good way to weed out the people you don't want to date anyway. Commuter Mike says, I just posted my first YouTube video related to my schoolie. I wasn't really planning on doing it, but it is a good way to look back at the progress. Yes, Mike, absolutely. It's a good way to document, man. Trust me, after a year of being on the road, you'll be happy. I still go back and watch my old videos and kind of laugh at how silly I was. But it's cool to look back at the progression and see how much you've grown over the years, because you absolutely will. Van life will force you to grow in a positive direction. So it's cool to go back and see how you've grown over the years. Yeah, Commuter Mike, drop your video in the chat and we'll check it out. Mythical Nomad Adventure Funky Van says, thanks for the stream. You were right on about van life. Rock on. Thank you, Mythical Nomad. I appreciate you for being here. It's been a good evening, a good chat with everybody. So I think that's it for me, guys. I am tired. It's been a long day. It's been almost 2 hours now on the stream, so I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate all you guys for being here and participating. This was a really good chat. I love doing the live streams. I'm going to keep them rolling. I'll have a new video coming out Sunday for you guys with me doing some stealth camping, and I look forward to seeing everybody next week, Wednesday. Here, I might do it a little bit earlier. I went late tonight because I was traveling, but I'll probably jump back to like 5 or 6 p.m. Pacific for the live. So I will see everybody next week. Thanks for tuning in. This is Nomad Brad, signing out.